8 Days Lost. A true survival story as told by the father. Part 1. The departure. Why we left. I'd been planning this for months. Not just a quick weekend away. Not some cozy cabin with Wi-Fi and heated floors. No, I wanted something real. I wanted to take my family somewhere untouched, somewhere wild. Somewhere we could actually breathe. And deep down, I knew I needed to do this. The last year had been a blur of long nights at the office, endless emails, and meetings that never seemed to end. Every time I got home late, I'd find the kids already asleep and Emily pretending not to be upset that we hadn't eaten dinner together again. Emily had been patient, too patient, but I could see the quiet disappointment in her eyes. Michael, our 12-year-old, had started keeping his distance. I told myself it was just him growing up, but I knew part of it was me. I wasn't there for his games, his projects, his life. And Lily, at 7, she still adored me, still ran to hug me when I walked through the door, but I knew that window was closing faster than I wanted to admit. So when I spotted that tiny blue dot on an old Idaho map, next to a nameless lake deep in the forest, something inside me said, "This is it. Not a resort, not a tourist trap, just wilderness. A place where maybe, just maybe, I could be the dad they deserved." The plan. I remember that night perfectly. I was at the kitchen table with an old paper map spread across it, tracing routes with my finger. My laptop glowed in the corner, half forgotten. The mug next to me was full of cold coffee I'd been too distracted to finish. Emily was in the kitchen folding laundry. "Here," I said, tapping a spot on the map like I'd just discovered buried treasure. She came over, wiping her hands on a towel, and glanced at the circle I'd drawn. "That's in the middle of nowhere." "Exactly," I said, grinning like a man who had all the answers. 2 days. Just us. A tent. A campfire. Fishing. Hiking. Marshmallows by the fire. It'll be perfect. She raised an eyebrow. "John, you're a city guy. When's the last time you even slept in a tent?" "College," I said, trying to sound casual. "And I survived that, didn't I?" Emily sighed, but a reluctant smile crept onto her face. That's the smile I'd fallen in love with years ago. She was always the cautious one, but she trusted me. Maybe too much. The kids reacted exactly as I expected. Michael, who was going through a phase where sarcasm was his first language, asked, "Are there bears there? Like real bears?" "Probably," I said casually, not thinking it through. He froze. "You're way too calm about that." Lily, on the other hand, bounced with excitement. "Can we swim? Can I bring Marshmallow?" Marshmallow being her stuffed bunny, who had seen more adventures than most people I knew. "Of course," I said. And just like that, the plan was set. Preparation. I threw myself into the preparations like a man trying to prove something. Maybe I was. I bought a brand new 4-person tent, thermal sleeping bags, water containers, and enough dehydrated meals for a week, even though we were only staying 2 days. I borrowed a camping stove from a coworker, though I told myself. Part 2. The wrong turn. Morning in paradise. The first morning in the forest smelled like pine, wet earth, and wood smoke, the kind of smell that makes you feel alive in a way city air never could. Lily woke me by poking my cheek with Marshmallow. "Daddy," she whispered, her little voice full of curiosity. "Can we go explore?" "Please." I sat up, every bone in my body stiff from sleeping on the ground, but I still smiled. "Sure, just a short hike." Emily was already awake, crouched by the tent, methodically packing snacks into Ziploc bags. Her hair was pulled back, but I could see the crease of worry between her eyebrows. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, glancing at the dense tree line. "We could just stay by the lake today. Swim. Relax." "It's fine," I said. "We'll stick to the trail." She didn't answer right away. I could tell she wanted to argue, but she didn't. That was Emily, trusting me even when she shouldn't have. I grabbed the compass and the map, though I barely looked at either. It's impossible to get lost, I told myself. The trail. At first, the trail was wide and easy, the dirt soft under our boots. Sunlight broke through the pine canopy in shifting golden stripes, and the air was alive with the sound of unseen birds. Michael walked ahead of us, carrying a long stick like a sword, slashing at invisible monsters with dramatic swipes. Lily lagged behind, carefully collecting pine cones and tiny white flowers, stuffing them into her little backpack with the kind of seriousness only a 7-year-old can have. The forest felt safe, almost welcoming. "See," I said, glancing at Emily. "Isn't this nice?" She gave me a half smile. "It is, but don't go too far, John." The fork. It wasn't long before the path split. One way, narrow and overgrown, vanishing into shadow. The other, wider, sloping downhill, where the trees seemed thinner. Emily hesitated. "Which way?" "Right," I said confidently, pointing downhill. "Why?" I shrugged. "It feels right." She raised an eyebrow. "You're guessing?" "No," I said, forcing a grin. "Just trusting my instincts." Her frown lingered, but she didn't argue. The moment we were lost. An hour passed, then another. I expected to loop back toward the lake, but instead, the trees grew thicker, closing in like walls. The sunlight dimmed. The air felt heavier. The trail, if you could still call it that, began to disappear under fallen leaves and moss. "Daddy, where's camp?" Lily asked, her tiny hand gripping mine. "Not far," I lied, forcing a smile. "Are you sure?" Michael asked, his voice unusually quiet. "Of course," I said, but my chest was tight, my breathing shallow. Emily's silence was louder than any accusation. She kept glancing at me like she wanted to say something, but didn't. When the sun began to dip lower, I felt it, a cold, sinking dread. We retraced our steps, or tried to, but everything looked the same. The dry, twisted tree I'd marked in my head, gone. The big rock I swore I'd seen near the trail, gone. It was like the forest had shifted when we weren't looking. "John," Emily finally said, stopping dead in her tracks. "We're lost." Her voice was calm, but her eyes were terrified. The first night out, we couldn't keep walking in the dark. I found a small clearing and gathered what little dry wood I could for a fire. My hands ached from tearing at wet branches. The fire smoked more than it burned. The kids sat on a log, chewing the last of the granola bars. Lily held Marshmallow so tightly I thought she might tear the fabric. Emily stayed quiet, holding Lily against her, her face unreadable in the dim light. I tried to sound confident. "Tomorrow, we'll find the lake. We're close. I know it." But inside, I felt like a fraud. "You're a father. You're supposed to protect them. And you've led them into this." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the weak fire, staring into the darkness, listening to the forest breathe, and for the first time, it didn't feel welcoming at all. It felt alive. Watching. Part 3. Survival. Day 2. Hunger. Morning came cold and gray. The air was heavy, damp from last night's dew, and it clung to our clothes like a second skin. I woke up with my back aching and my stomach growling so loud I hoped the kids wouldn't hear it. We'd eaten the last of the granola bars the night before. I tried to convince myself that hunger would make us move faster, but it just made us slower, weaker. Emily sat a few feet away, hugging her knees, staring at the ground. She didn't speak when I woke up, and I didn't know if that was because she was trying not to upset the kids or because she didn't trust me anymore. Lily tugged at my sleeve. "Daddy, my tummy hurts." Her voice was so small I barely heard it. "I know, sweetheart," I said, brushing her messy hair out of her face. "We'll find something to eat. Soon." Emily stood and pulled me aside, her face tight with frustration. "John, we can't just wander," she said. "We need to pick a direction and stick to it. This isn't a day trip anymore." She was right, but I didn't want to admit how scared I really was. "We'll keep moving southeast," I said, as if I had a plan. "If we stay in one place, no one will find us." Michael, usually full of sarcasm, was silent. He walked with his head down, his stick dragging in the dirt. I'd never seen him so quiet. By afternoon, Lily was crying from hunger. Her legs gave out more than once, and I had to carry her on my shoulders, which drained what little strength I had left. When we finally reached a trickling stream, I nearly cried with relief. The water was murky, brownish with dirt, and who knows what else. But it was water. I took off my shirt and used it as a filter, squeezing the liquid into a bottle. It didn't make it look any better, but it felt like we were doing something, anything, to stay alive. "Do we have to drink that?" Michael asked, staring at the bottle with disgust. "It'll keep us alive," I said. The words sounded hollow even to me. Emily took a cautious sip, grimaced, then passed it to the kids. We drank like survivors, not campers. That night, we huddled together, our stomachs still aching, but at least our throats weren't dry. Day 3. The bear. The next morning, I knew I couldn't keep pretending this was temporary. We needed food. Real food. "I'll look for something to eat," I told Emily, grabbing my pocket knife. "I'll come," Michael said immediately. His voice cracked a little, but his eyes were determined. I put a hand on his shoulder. "No, stay here. Take care of Mom and Lily." He frowned, but didn't argue. Maybe even he knew he didn't have the strength for it. I wandered farther than I'd intended, scanning for anything edible. Every sound made me tense. Every shadow felt like it was hiding something. Finally, I found them, a cluster of dark berries clinging to a low bush. I didn't know if they were safe, but I couldn't walk back empty-handed. I dropped to my knees, gathering as many as I could, shoving them into my pockets like treasure. Then I heard it, a low snap of branches. My blood froze. I turned my head slowly. 10 feet away, a massive brown bear stood watching me. Its fur was slick and dark, its eyes locked on mine. It didn't charge. It didn't move. It just stared. I raised my arm slowly, my knife still in my hand. Useless against something that size. "Easy," I whispered, though I doubted it could understand anything but fear. The bear grunted, sniffing the air. Took one slow, deliberate step forward. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it turned away and lumbered off, disappearing into the trees. I didn't breathe for a full minute. When I finally did, it came in short, ragged gasps. I gathered the berries with trembling hands and sprinted back to camp. When I handed them over, Emily didn't ask why my hands were shaking. Maybe she didn't want to know. Day 4. The fire. We spent the day rationing the berries. They were bitter, and I wasn't even sure they wouldn't make us sick, but we ate them anyway. Hunger makes even poison taste like hope. That night, I tried building a bigger fire. My fingers were raw from stripping bark. My body ached from carrying damp logs. Every spark fizzled out like it was mocking me. Emily rubbed Lily's arms, whispering, "It's okay, baby. We'll be okay," though her voice shook. Michael sat on a log, staring at me. "Are we?" he asked suddenly. I froze. Looked at him, at his pale, drawn face, his dirty hair hanging in his eyes. "I don't know," I said quietly. He didn't respond. He just turned his face away. That night, I lay awake listening to the forest, every snap of a twig, every rustle of branches. I kept imagining the bear returning, or worse, no one ever finding us at all. Sleep didn't come. It hadn't in days. Part 4. Days of Darkness. Day 5. The rain. It rained all night. The kind of rain that doesn't just fall from the sky, but seems to hang there, thick and oppressive, a curtain of water blocking out everything else. At first, it was a soft drizzle, the kind of rain that almost felt like a whisper. But as the hours dragged on, the rain grew heavier, relentless. It soaked through our clothes and chilled our bones. I couldn't keep the water from pouring in under the edges of the tent, no matter how many rocks I piled up or how tightly I tied the ropes. Our makeshift fire, the one I had worked so hard to get started, the one I had desperately hoped would give us some warmth, hissed and died. There was no fire now. There was nothing to do but wait. We found a shallow rock overhang to shelter under, but it didn't offer much protection. The ground beneath us was slick with mud, and I could feel the cold creeping in. Emily wrapped Lily in the emergency blanket, holding her close, her body pressed against Lily's like a shield. Michael, silent and pale, sat by the edge of the rock, staring out at the rain. "Stay close," I said quietly to him, though I knew he was too far gone to respond. I could feel the weight of the hours pressing down on us. The hunger, the cold, the constant dampness seeping into our skin, it all made the world feel smaller. Darker. The trees above us swayed with the wind, their branches creaking like old bones. The forest was alive with sound, but all I could hear was the water pouring from the sky, washing away everything that had come before. I whispered, "It's going to stop. It has to stop." But even as the words left my lips, I knew they were empty. By morning, the rain had eased, leaving behind a bitter chill that clung to everything. I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. I couldn't feel anything except the gnawing emptiness inside me. Day 6. The injury. We couldn't stay under the overhang forever. We had to keep moving, even though every step felt heavier than the last. The air was thick with moisture, and the ground was still slick from the rain. The trees loomed over us, their dark branches like grasping hands. It was when we reached the edge of the forest that it happened. Lily, who had been holding my hand tightly, stumbled on a twisted root. Her small foot caught on it, and she fell to the ground, letting out a scream that echoed through the trees. I ran to her, panic clawing at my chest. I kneeled beside her, gently taking her ankle in my hands. She was crying, her face streaked with tears, and I could see that her ankle was swollen, already turning purple. "Daddy, it hurts," she whimpered, clutching her stuffed bunny like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to this world. "Shoo, sweetheart," I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. But my own heart was racing. Emily knelt beside me, her face pale with worry. "John, what do we do? We have nothing to help her." I knew she was right. I looked at the ragged strip of my shirt, which was all I had to offer. But it would have to be enough. I wrapped it around Lily's ankle as best I could, trying to stabilize it, though I knew it wasn't good enough. "Hold on, baby," I said softly, kissing her forehead. "We'll get through this." But as I said the words, I felt the weight of them sink in. How could we? Lily whimpered through the night, her pain unbearable. Emily rocked her, murmuring words of comfort, but there was nothing to do except wait. Day 7. The breaking point. By the 7th day, we were barely functioning. Hunger gnawed at us, but there was nothing left to eat. The berries we had found had long since run out. The water from the stream tasted like dirt, and it barely satisfied the thirst that clung to us. Michael, who had been quiet for days, was now a shadow of the boy I had known. His eyes were hollow, his skin pale. He hadn't spoken more than a few words all day. He just sat by the fire, staring into the flames with that blank expression. Emily hadn't smiled in days. She hadn't even cried. She seemed to be holding on by sheer will, but I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight of everything pressing down on her. She was trying to hold it together for Lily and for me, but we were all breaking. That night, as I sat by the fire, desperately trying to get it started again, Emily turned to me. Her voice was raw, stripped of all pretense. How could you bring us here without a plan? Without GPS? Without anything? The words hit harder than I was prepared for. They were like daggers, each one sinking deeper than the last. I'm trying to fix this, I shouted, standing up abruptly. Fix this. She laughed bitterly. John, our daughter can't walk. Michael hasn't eaten a real meal in a week. We're going to die out here. Her words shattered me. I had promised them safety, and now all I had given them was pain. I don't know what to do anymore, I said, my voice breaking. She looked at me like I had betrayed her, and maybe I had. In that moment, I wasn't the man I had tried to be. I wasn't the father I had promised to be. The silence that followed her words was suffocating. The only sound was Lily's soft whimpers, which only made everything worse. Finally, Michael stood up and walked over to his sister. He knelt beside her, wrapping his arms around her protectively. His face was hard, his gaze intense, as though he was trying to take on the burden for all of us. I'm sorry, Emily whispered, her voice cracked. I just want to go home. I walked away from them, into the darkness. I needed to be alone. I needed to feel the isolation, because that's what it was now. This wasn't a family anymore. It was just 4 people fighting to survive. I sat on a fallen tree, burying my face in my hands. The weight of everything crashed down on me. For the first time since we had gotten lost, I let myself cry. The tears came in ragged bursts, and I couldn't stop them. Day 8. The sound. I don't know how long I sat there, alone in the dark, the sound of my own ragged breaths the only thing grounding me to reality. The world had become a blur of hunger, exhaustion, and endless waiting. I couldn't tell if the rain had stopped or if I had simply become numb to it, but everything felt unreal. How did we get here? My mind kept going in circles, replaying every decision I had made, every wrong turn, every mistake that led us further away from safety. I kept thinking about the things I could have done differently, the things I should have done. But it didn't matter. We were here now, and there was nothing I could do. But then, just when I thought I could no longer bear the weight of the silence, I heard it. A low hum. At first, I thought I was imagining things, hallucinating from hunger and fatigue. But no, it was real. The sound grew louder, rhythmic, unmistakable. A helicopter. I shot up to my feet, my heart racing. The sudden jolt of adrenaline cut through the fog of despair like a bolt of lightning. My body moved before my mind even fully understood what was happening. Emily, Michael, get up, I screamed, my voice hoarse from days of disuse. I didn't wait to see if they heard me. I ran toward the clearing, my feet slipping in the mud, my breath coming in sharp gasps. The trees parted, and through the branches, I saw it. A dark silhouette, a red cross on its side. A helicopter. Wave, wave, I shouted, flailing my arms, the weight of the past days collapsing on me. I didn't care. I didn't think. I just had to make sure they saw us. I wasn't sure if they heard me, if they saw me, but I waved until my arms ached, until my voice cracked. And then, through the trees, I heard the unmistakable sound of breaking branches. People are coming. Searchers in bright jackets appeared, shouting our names. John Harris? Emily Harris. Here. Oh God, we're here. I sobbed, the words falling from my lips in disbelief. When they found us, the next moments felt like a blur. They wrapped us in blankets, giving us water, speaking to us in calm, steady voices. It felt like I had stepped out of a nightmare and into a dream. One of the medics checked Lily's swollen ankle, her hands gentle as she examined the injury. I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't stop crying. I was too weak to even stand properly. But I was alive. They were alive. When Emily kissed Lily's hair, Michael buried his face in my chest, the weight of everything lifting, even if just for a moment. We were safe. We had made it. You were only 3 miles from the campground, one of the rescuers said, his voice gruff but filled with relief. We've been looking for you since day 3. 3 miles. 3 miles. 8 days. It felt like a lifetime. I didn't know how to process it, how to make sense of everything we had endured. But in that moment, nothing else mattered. We were alive, and we were going home. Epilogue. Home. A month later, Lily wore a brace on her ankle, but she was walking again. Michael was back at school, his friends none the wiser about what he had been through. Emily and I went to therapy, trying to piece our lives back together, trying to understand how to move forward. I still woke up at night, gasping, convinced I was back in that forest. One evening, Emily said softly, "You still blame yourself." "Yes," I admitted, the weight of it heavier than ever. "But you saved us," she said, her voice filled with a quiet understanding. I didn't answer. I just held her. The forest had left scars, visible and invisible, but we walked out of it together, and I will never take a single ordinary day for granted again.